In Plato's Histories, the Greek historian described a city that shined as a beacon of power and technology. A city so wealthy, it was able to cover its walls in brass and gold. It possessed vast military might and a powerful navy which helped it to conquer most of what was the known world at the time. He was speaking, of course, of Atlantis. This mighty nation was said to have been destroyed by the gods nearly overnight by devastating earthquakes and other natural disasters. While it is still hotly debated whether Atlantis was an actual city or perhaps an allegory used by Plato, this has not stopped historians and archaeologists from trying to tease its actual location from Plato's writings. Recently, though, a theory has been put forth that perhaps Atlantis was not swallowed by the sea, but now sits in plain sight within the Sahara Desert. Unusual geologic formations and tantalizing archaeological tidbits lend weight to this wild theory. On this case file, join the theorists as they get into one of the most epic of staring contests with the Eye of the Sahara.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Case File 89, Eye of the Sahara. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
Andrew.
And
We did it right that time.
Yeah,
No, I said I'm staying in my lane.
why do you have to stay in your lane, Braden, and drive 5?
Drive 5?
Yeah, why do you got to drive 5?
Had a little of that legal cannabis.
I think it's Braden's first time stoned on the podcast.
Pretty slow moving right now.
See what you're
Motor
reading.
skills
Everything's
wise.
gonna slow down.
Yeah, prepare yourself for me taking my time. Not stumbling with my words here.
Oh, shit.
Right. Do we have anything? Vegas is coming up January 31st to February 4th. So stoked.
Details are taking shape. I think Area 51's on the agenda. At least drive out there.
Oh, 100%.
National Museum of Atomic Testing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a haunted house or something there we can go to?
Yeah, there is some sort of haunted
Probably.
house.
So
I'm glad I'm not going. Fuck. Sounds like a big old nerd trip anyways.
So what are we going to do what the deal is pretty much if you want to come to Vegas, there's no, like, you just pay your own way and we just meet up and whoever's around,
We're going to do some, we're going to drink beers and hang
Yeah,
out.
we'll hang out with you if you show up, and you can take pictures with us, and you
Please
can.
be our friends.
We'll hang out with you and get drunk, and that's real fun.
you'll see a full-on meat draw drunk Braden, real
Oh,
life.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And you'll forever regret your decision for coming.
We will not charge for photos like some people we know.
No, we don't
Yeah.
charge. We get payments in beer.
Ridiculous.
It's fine. Beer's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Forever.
Oh,
for
yeah.
anything, really.
Let's get into some space news. Ooh, I got a lot of space news. This is a bad day to get a lot of space news.
It's a great day to be a listener.
China moon mission lands Chang 4 space. Oh, wait, I read this.
Yeah, they landed it.
What was I
Sweet.
going to read? Oh, yeah, they were making tracks on the moon.
Yeah.
Me and Dan were talking earlier, and it's dropping some space potatoes. Dan, is that what you were saying?
I'll say that on board the spacecraft, they had loaded, I think, a type of potatoes, like potato seeds and silkworms, from what I heard.
What?
Like they're the first living things on the moon,
So that
besides people.
they just unleashed them on the moon?
They didn't unleash them on the moon. I heard that the spacecraft was carrying a type of silkworms and potatoes, and I think they were going to try to experiment on if you could grow something on the moon.
Oh, and like
it's,
some type of dome or something?
A small tin. Small tin contains seeds of potatoes and rock cress Oh, fuck. Arabidopsis thaliana.
Yes, one more
I don't
time.
know. And silkworm eggs. They think they're going to live in this little tin can because they figure the plants will support the silkworms with oxygen. There's no way that thing lives.
Fuck no.
No, it dead.
It's just they just leaving it on the surface of the moon.
I don't even know if they're leaving it on the surface. I think they're just carrying it around on the rover.
Oh, weird.
Interesting. What else did I have here? Oh, there was a giant super blue blood moon eclipse. Like I said
Super
before,
blue blood
I feel
moon.
like these are becoming more and more common, and every time I hear them, they have a more ridiculous name. Like the last one was like the giant red eclipse. This one's the super blue blood moon. What's
Super
next?
blue blood moon. What was it? Just like, did it drive a Rolls Royce and have old
blue
money?
blood, man. It's working class.
That's blue collar.
Same thing.
That's the blue collar moon.
Blue blood means it's in law enforcement. Come on now.
Blue
What?
blood.
No, blue blood. Blue bloods is it's a reference to somebody who's really rich from like old money. And it's about a family of police officers, like a family of them.
The cops.
Oh, I'm not doing. I want to talk about this one. Behold, SpaceX first Crew Dragon spaceship is on the launch pad. Eventually, this is the ship that's going to carry astronauts into space. They're doing some unmanned test launches. So
it'll be the first
This thing-
non-NASA shuttle to bring a rocket to bring humans to space.
yes, but they're testing it right now. So I imagine manned launches are on the horizon.
Dope.
So that's pretty cool. I think it could fly later than January 17th. So that'd be pretty cool. Hopefully they don't have any setbacks with it.
Pretty cool.
I've got that one down.
Pretty cool.
That's all I got for space news. I was closing them. Ones that were going to be too hard to read, I was closing as I went. That
This
weren't
just
that
in.
interesting.
It's just in bulletin. Space is still cool.
I got one.
Space is the place.
I wanted my fucking mind blown though. I was all excited.
What, potatoes and silkworms on the moon doesn't blow your minds?
What about this? What about the new picture of, how did you even say it? Ultima Thule?
Ultima Thule.
Ultima Thule. The first
That's
stereo
right.
image of Ultima Thule was taken on the New Horizons, or the New Horizons science team created the first stereo image pair of Ultima Thule.
I mean, the space peanut.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a
people
little
said
peanut.
it looked like a snowman. I was like, have you never built a snowman? And they have 3 balls. Dummy,
Yeah,
that's not. It's 2 balls.
Yeah, it's a peanut.
It's not a snowman.
Space
It's a
peanut way out in the Kuiper Belt. Took a picture of it.
I think the only snowman I built had 2 balls, but I'm lazy, so that's probably had more to do with that.
Yeah.
That's a height thing.
Yeah, maybe I can't reach. I can't get to the top.
You can't stack that 3rd ball.
Oh man, need to get on somebody's shoulders.
Give it a good underhand toss. Balance it just right.
I don't have the hand-eye coordination for that.
Okay. Anyone else got space news?
No, that's end space news.
Fucking.
Space
Big
news.
time.
Dan, you got to read this UFO case file of the week. I can't read this.
You can't read it.
I can't read this.
No. You don't get off that easy. You gotta read the
serious.
damn thing.
You're the one who-
Fire up the Randomatron. Let's see
All
what
right,
happens.
and we're thinking at it right now.
UFO.
Wow, perfect. British aircraft enthusiast describes triangle UFO. This is by Roger Marsh. A British witness at Hemel Hempstead reported watching a triangular-shaped object under 500 feet with an invested light-up dome. According to testimony in case 89653 from the Mutual UFO Network, Witness Reporting Database. The event occurred beginning at 3:35 a.m. on January 17th, 2018. In quotes, a bright light came through bedroom curtain, the witness stated. A triangular vehicle was spotted gliding in a straight line. Underneath the vehicle was an inverted lit dome virtually touching the three sides. The inverted dome had arched ribs from bottom to top with a center pillar projecting a bright light. The witness said he had a perfect view of the object until it disappeared over nearby buildings. I almost said village buildings. I was mixing the two words. In quotes, my first reaction was it was a strange plane out of London Airport, then immediately realized it was not a normal aircraft. United Kingdom Assistant National Director Michael Price closed this case as an unknown aerial vehicle. Having reviewed the information, this case provides me with somewhat difficult assessment to make, Price wrote in this report. The witness is an aircraft enthusiast, and being one myself, I know how accurately we can identify known aircraft, both civilian and military, with a lot of accuracy, even in the dark. This, for me, rules out misidentification of a known aircraft and type. In quotes, the second interesting point to note is the descriptive of the central light, not only in its shape and luminosity, but also the fact that it was clear enough for the witness to notice that it almost touched the three sides of the triangle. The arched ribs descriptive is very interesting, which is central pillar of light. I have heard this described before by whistleblowers out of Area 51 and Lockheed that state that bright light given off is plasma charging through the anti-gravity drive, which could have a wave expulsion pattern similar to a black hole forcing out light from the top and bottom of the center. This could explain the pillar of light observed with the arched ribs providing the skeleton for the plasma charge containment. Without any additional evidence or secondary observed sighting, it is difficult to investigate further, but I think based on the short description, what was viewed was either a known AV or an unknown aerial vehicle of ETV classification. I have classified this case as a UAV in the absence of any reliable identification of TR-3B or Aurora military craft. Hemel Hempstead is a town in Hertfordshire, England, located 24 miles northwest of London. That's the end of that story. I have no idea. I was so focused on reading, I have no idea what I read.
Don't even know what you read.
Don't even know. Honestly, you guys could talk about it. I have no idea what it is. What happened?
What shape
Someone
was it?
Summarize it real quick.
What shape was it?
What shape was what? Honestly, I was so I'm just like, hey, don't fuck up these words. I didn't even it didn't even register what I was reading.
Oh shit! No, it doesn't matter.
Great.
It doesn't matter.
No.
You'll hear it later.
We'll see. Let's get at the task at hand. What are we talking about today?
Oh, something called the Eye of the Sahara, or more scientifically known, was it recot or reshot? Recot.
I think it's
Recot structure.
Recaught.
Some call it a possible location of the lost city of Atlantis.
Interesting.
First thoughts. What's your first thoughts on it? Doesn't matter who. What are you thinking?
I was pulling it up on Google. Look, I'd never heard of it before we started looking into it. And I was like, oh man, that looks very out of place. Like the landmark itself, you're like, it looks designed almost. It definitely just looks out of place for when you see all the aerial videos. That's all I was thinking.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything else you've ever seen, like geologically, really.
Totally.
It's like pretty.
Yeah, no, that definitely stood out to me too. You know what I mean? Like you'd think if it was a natural, you know what I mean, some type of a natural act, that there would be something else similar around the world. And you know what I mean? With all the research I did, I couldn't find anything that looks anything like that.
No, and we're doing a podcast, so we got to describe it. I guess it's like a bullseye, like a man-made giant bullseye.
Yeah, they're almost perfect concentric circles of rock. It's really impressive, is what it is. It's really
except
neat.
It's like 40 kilometers across, so it's huge.
It is gigantic.
You can see it. You can see it from space. I was reading on one site that like the International Space Station like uses it all the time to like kind of figure out where they are.
Yeah, kind of like a landmark from space.
Yeah, like a landmark. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks wild from space, but if you were to see that from the ground, I bet you it wouldn't even fucking look like anything.
It looked like just a couple canyons, really.
Yeah, they never really got an idea of like how unique the structure was for a long time until you had aerial photography and things like that, because it's huge. Like you get there and you can't. It doesn't look like anything. It looks like a flat plane, really.
I watched this one video of this guy, and he had hired a guide to bring him in, and he said that they got lost for like 4 hours and they couldn't really find it, and he had GPS'd it, and when he got back into service, it showed their route, and he had gone through the center like a bunch of times. And they had no idea. They were like, because you just can't tell when you're in. It's just desert. It's just more desert. It's sand. It's just so grand that inside you have no idea.
Yeah,
that was my first impression, like looking at it.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like a central island, and then a canyon, then like a raised mountain, then a canyon, then a raised mountain, then a canyon. And at first glimpse, well, you hear like the stories of Atlantis with like the concentric rings, with bridges and water, and it was connected to the ocean in a way. So I think that's pretty much how the theory starts, that it could be a theory like Atlantis, just kind of hidden in plain sight almost.
Well, when you definitely like lean towards that when you first look, 'cause especially if you look up artistic drawings of Atlantis. I was pulling them up, and then I was looking at this, and I was like, you know what? Like you could make a case that like there's a lot of similarities here.
Oh, totally. Like, it's fucking. We haven't even got into like any of the similarities other than just like looks, but that's definitely one of the most convincing ones for sure.
Now, what do we know about history of this place? Like, is there any? Has they really found any structures or like any evidence of like civilization around this thing?
Well, it's not like, from what I was reading, there's not. They don't do much there because of how dangerous. I don't know how to pronounce it. Mauritania. Like it's super dangerous there. So like it's never been excavated. They've never had any like big equipment out there to like do work on it like they do at other structures. It's been very much just kind of left. But
from what I've read, they've found remains of like tools and like copper and gold and stuff like that.
Which would make you think, you're like, shit's there. Like, why? Let's dig more. Let's unearth some more shit.
Oh, totally.
Because if you go, what was it, like 10,000 years ago was the Ice Age, and they think that like Egypt and that whole Sahara desert wasn't a desert until like how many thousand? Not that long ago, right? So at one time this would have been like lush, like it wouldn't have been a desert. I'm not sure exactly what the climate would be, but it's not going to be just sand. There's probably plants and rivers, you know. So
it probably would have been similar to what the Nile Delta was when it was in its prime.
Right.
Something like that. You'd have like long, flat, grassy plains, I guess subtropical trees and things like that.
Yeah, and like they've found animal remains. Like there's lots of remains of elephants and stuff like that, and obviously they wouldn't survive in a desert climate, right?
Exactly.
Well, it's also weird. They found whale bones in the desert.
Yeah, that's
not fossils. Bones.
Like actual bones.
Bones. So it's like that a lot of that could have been underwater at one point.
Well, You want to think it's underwater, but then if you look at the elevation chart of this area, right, it's like 1,500 feet above sea level current sea level. And so the theories, I mean, that's kind of one of the debunking things is it's so high above like sea level currently. But let's not go there yet. That's at the end. There's some geological things that maybe could raise it out of the ground. But let's make some connections. Where does the connection, like Atlantis starts with Plato's writings in Timaeus and Critias, right, or whatever. But that's based on, who's the guy, Solon or?
Well, Solon, it all starts when Solon took a little journey to Egypt, because I guess Egypt at that time had the oldest recorded history.
Right.
And he ran into a Egyptian priest. I'm going to butcher his name, but it's Sauntius of Sais. Does that sound right? Dan will probably know.
Exactly.
So he ran into the Egyptian priest Sauntius of Sais, who taught him about Atlantis. And I guess with their records, Egypt itself used to be part of the Atlantean Empire.
Like in their history in Egypt at that time.
Yeah, that priest reported to Solon. According to him, Egypt was a colony of Atlantis at first.
Right.
If you read it, I mean, it's the story that Plato tells. He says it came from Solon, who was a ancestor of his, who was like a relative and like 6 generations removed. So he was like really.
So Plato took the notes of his long lost cousin and then wrote the stories about Atlantis through that, pretty much.
What's his name?
Solon.
He made the Rings of Power, right?
Yeah,
I think
yes,
so.
He did. He didn't make the Rings of Power. He made the one ring to rule them all.
Oh, okay. All right. And this is his eye, right? That's the eye of what's his name? That's the eye of Solon? That's what we're going to call it from now on, right?
That's exactly right.
It's the eye of Solon. Look at it. It's an all-seeing eye.
Done.
It's got an eyebrow in the picture I'm
Case
looking
closed.
at. I'm going to send you guys this link in Discord, and you tell me that's not an eye with an eyebrow. That's not Solon's eye.
Okay, I gotta get a
look at the second picture. Look at that. That's an eye with an eyebrow.
That's like a Eugene Levy eyebrow.
Yeah, it's fucking big. All right, well,
I'm just saying.
But yeah, like this Solon guy, he was quite important, at his time. He was a lawmaker, a statesman. He was an intellectual, and I guess at this time, it was normal for these intellectual types to travel to Egypt to get this type of information, right? To look into history and bring it back.
Right.
So you know what I mean? I get there is a fucking huge amount of time between, Solon and Plato, but you know what I mean? I don't know. We can just discredit them because of that.
No, I mean, most people consider these people like the first historians, really, right? That try to keep whatever they could, try to find out everything they could and try and keep record of it.
Yeah, totally.
And
you know what I mean? I think Plato would be somewhat of a good judge of, if he thought something was BS or not.
I mean, I'm sure Plato doesn't have a 100% track record now, but I'm sure it's pretty good compared to most people, most historians.
Totally.
Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
On Solon or?
Well, just these ancient fathers of history, how credible, how many things did they get really right and how many things were disproven or have been disproven that we know of? Or do you know of any?
I can't believe you're tossing one over to Danny Downer there.
I think most of the historians are pretty spot on, but the only thing is that the only history that we have is their history.
Yeah.
The advantages that they have is that we do have recorded history for them. I mean, the Greeks and the Egyptians were good at writing things down, and that's what you kind of get is you get their side of the story.
Right.
Well, and I guess that wherever that Egyptian priest was at Sais, or the Temple of Sais, I guess you could call it, all that shit's been now destroyed, right? There's no remnants of that.
Yeah, it's
all those hieroglyphics
under the Nile.
Supposedly were interpreted. That shit's all gone, right?
Yeah, it's all taken over by the Nile floodlands, pretty much.
Yeah, so which is kind of shitty, but convenient for our old boy Sauron here.
Please, Dark Lord Solon.
Sorry, my bad. My bad.
I came across this guy too. So this is a map that was drawn by, they call him the father of history, like Herodotus. He was kind of
Herodotus, yeah.
kind of like before Plato, but after Solon, somewhere in the middle. But he didn't really know either of them. But pretty much, you can search his map. It's a Herodotus.
I believe he died around the time Plato was 2.
Yeah,
and
when
he was like,
just a
he
little
was
kid.
quite the historian too, though. Like he was the one that we got most of our like first information from, like the Greco-Persian Wars, and he was nicknamed the father of history. Like he was kind of a big deal.
Right, and he had a map that showed in the northwest region of Africa, at the whole recorded known world at the time in that area. He had in the northwest corner, pretty much where this structure is, where this Eye of the Sahara is. He had a place called Atlantis. On the map, it was named Atlantis on the map.
Yeah, and this map dates back to like 450 BC.
Oh, it's it's probably even older. It's probably like, I guess 2,500. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like right where he has Atlantis is right where the Atlantis Mountains are, right?
Atlas Mountains.
Atlas
Yeah,
Mountains,
or sorry, the Atlas.
which would have been named after Atlantis, probably. Or Atlas was the king of Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
He was the king of
was the
Atlantis,
first king of
which
Atlantis.
means like Atlantis means city of Atlas, and Atlas was the ruler of Mauritania, right? Or the first ruler of Mauritania.
Well, he's the
Does that
first.
sound right?
They say he's the first king of Mauritania, like the modern Mauritania, but he's also he's the first king of Atlantis, and
Which is the area that the fucking eye is at, right?
Yeah. So that's one of like the main pieces of evidence people point to, is that maybe this map is an kind of a transcribed after an older map that it's kind of like it shows Atlantis where the structure is, and the two are kind of correlated and made connections to kind of say maybe it was Atlantis.
Well, and then you get into the shit that Plato talks about in Critias and Timaeus, right? Like it's some of that shit it's uncanny, man. Like the size that he said that, you know what I mean, that Atlantis was just turns out to be fucking within, you know what I mean, I don't know how many kilometers of the eye of the Sahara. Like that shit's fucking crazy.
My only question is, how reliable were ancient map makers?
No idea.
Go ahead and look at Herodotus's map. It's fucking pretty much bang on for that area.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that a lot of times, was he a map maker? He wasn't a map maker. He was a historian.
I think he took the maps of everywhere and kind of made his own map based on others' maps. I think it's probably how he did it.
Right.
Well,
so he's guessing.
At this time, at 450 BC, made a map that looks pretty fucking well similar to what we use today. And then Plato fucking makes this. He writes this Critias and Timaeus. Critias. How do you say it again?
Critias.
I don't fucking butcher it. I don't know. I thought that was pretty fucking cool.
It is cool. Like definitely it makes a connection. But yeah.
Well, and the way he describes the main city consisting of concentric circles of land and water, right? The exact same amount of circles that are in the Eye of the Sahara.
Yeah, he says it has 3 of water and 2 of land, and if you were to fill up this structure with water, that's exactly what it would look like with the center island.
Yeah, which is pretty fucking nuts.
He also says some more stuff. He says in the writings, the center island produces fresh water from a spring and hot water from a second.
Well, and have you seen that documentary where they show that they were able to pull fresh water from the center of the Eye of the Sahara?
Yeah. So it's what was that? That one's called Finding Atlantis, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Is that the James Cameron one?
No,
no,
that's a different one.
That's a different one.
It's a different one.
Anyways,
but, like, that's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. So they found fresh water in the center, and I guess around there, if you dig, like a lot of it has salt water, so there must be like underground, like something from the ocean under there somewhere, or leftover salt water from a time when maybe the ocean was covering this area. Who knows when that would have been? No idea. But he also says stuff like they use red, black, and white stone for their buildings. And I guess if you go around this eye, there is different types of stones, red, black, and white. So there's a couple small connections.
Well, and again, like I was saying earlier, they found remains of elephants in the Eye of the Sahara, right? And then they talk about Mauritania's biggest exports were copper and gold, which you can still find in that area.
Like Mauritania still exports copper and gold.
Yeah.
Right? So if elephants lived in this area, it's a desert now, so at one time it definitely would have had to have been green of some kind, some type of savanna or
Totally.
jungle or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like that video that we watched. What was it called? The Bright. The fuck was it? Do you remember the name of it?
Oh,
Oh
shit.
yeah,
The
Yeah,
Bright Insight
Yeah.
guy.
That's the one.
Yeah, like that fucking, I don't know, man. After, obviously I did a little bit more research after just watching that, but just watching that, the guy fucking could have told me the earth was flat and I would have went around telling people. Like I was fucking sold for a bit there. Did you do any reading about how the timeline of the Younger Dryas impact too? Like that's fucking pretty nuts.
What's that one?
It argues about the impact of the comet or asteroid that triggered the rapid and sudden climate change.
yeah. We've talked about a bunch of times that a fragmented comet probably hit somewhere in the northern hemisphere, a few different locations. Pretty much,
Which they found evidence of some in Greenland, which I think.
yeah, the
that might
Hiawatha
be
crater,
part of
like
it.
and they dated that right to the time, so the evidence is all stacking up for that.
Yeah, like you listen to Graham Hancock talk about that and it'll fucking blow your mind if you haven't heard of it.
Okay, so say that happened and this city of Atlantis was at that time. Say, let's just entertain the theory that this Mauritania place, or not Mauritania, the eye of the Sahara was Atlantis in its current location. It's pretty far from the sea, right? Currently.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure
It's a good distance.
like a good distance, and
It's a good distance from the
high.
sea, and like you said, it's 1,500 feet above sea level.
It's high, right? But in that video, it kind of, from a satellite view, it kind of looks like a tsunami had washed like a bunch of mud in one direction. So that's kind of.
I wasn't convinced. I wasn't convinced on that point because I thought, could that not just be ocean winds blowing sand? And that's what you're like.
Yeah.
You're
And
just
that
seeing
would
these
have to
sand
be-
collections.
That would have to be a legendary. And I mean, I know like there is flood myths and things like that, but that would have to be a legendary tsunami.
Dan, do you think?
And
it
coming
would
from
have
the
to be as
direction-
big as
And
the
coming
one in
from the
Perfect Storm?
direction of if you were gonna put it at like the Younger Dryas theory, then and the impact crater is in Greenland, like that's the wrong direction.
Yeah, I tried to put that theory together, but hey, maybe there's a crater in the middle of the Atlantic that they don't know about either. Yeah, they haven't found it.
Could very well be, yeah.
If it's a fragmented comet, right, and maybe there's 7 or 8, 10 pieces, all pretty
Just
big.
peppered Earth.
Yeah, that's kind of what the theory is, but I don't know.
Well, and Plato does describe perfectly about the mountains that are kind of surrounding the Eye of the Sahara too, which is pretty crazy. And like we wouldn't even be able to tell that until we got like
What was it? Mountains to the north, ocean to the south, or something like that.
Yeah, with the opening to the south, and they dug like a 300 foot by 100 foot deep canal to connect to the ocean to fill up Atlantis in his accounts.
In the histories, they say it's like 300 feet, 100 feet deep, and it's supposed to be like 5 miles long.
Yeah, something like that.
So when I look at the structure, I would think you'd see that. I didn't see it. I don't know. I know there's been some interesting Google people have been poring over the Google satellite, photos, the Google Earth photos, and found some interesting stuff. But I would think that you would see there would be evidence of a 5 mile long, 100 foot deep canal.
Well, I'm on this. It's a map based on Google Earth. It's called elevation.maplogs.com, and anywhere you click, it tells you the elevation of where you're clicking. So I'm clicking right on the structure. It's 1,516 feet, and it's kind of like on this big plateau. But if you go, it's definitely more than 5 or 6 miles though. If you go and you click, it drops 1,000 feet really suddenly. So
Ooh.
if you go back with it, say you went to max, I think the maximum ocean height of any time that we can tell was about 600 feet higher than it is now. So the ocean, if you have to pull this back, like you'd have to go with the theory that humans have been on this planet pretty much forever, like millions and millions of years. But at one time, the edge of this plateau would have kind of met the ocean in a way that it would have been a lot closer to the coast, I guess you would say. And if you click around on it, you can kind of see where the elevation would slowly change. It would go up. Yeah, it still goes up like 400 feet though. So you'd have to like make locks, like boat locks, right, to get up
Yeah.
to that.
Oh yeah.
Height.
Way more advanced than and what they talk about in the
Yeah, they don't describe
in
it.
Plato's history. They don't. I mean, Plato's history pretty much puts it as it is an advanced culture. The Atlanteans were an advanced culture, but only in the terms of like Bronze Age. You know, they pretty much describe that kind of stuff. And I mean, the Greeks were relatively advanced themselves. They did have things like, or they were developing at least in like crude ways. They had like steam power. Some of their temples had like steam powered structures and doors and things like this. And they had lots of other, you know, timekeeping pieces and things like that, navigation. So Atlantis was advanced for the time, but still within Bronze Age technology. And yeah, I would think that boat locks would be a little, that'd be a little,
And not just a few,
advanced.
like you would need a.
Well, if you believe all that, like the Graham Hancock stuff, and that these were like that advanced, and maybe Plato got it a little bit wrong, would it be that surprising?
Hey, if
I
they
mean, he had to get it really
Like
wrong.
if they can build the Great Pyramids and you know what I mean, Chichen Itza and shit like that. Like apparently some of these super advanced people who spread across the world teaching their ways and got those things built. I don't know. I don't find that that's hard to believe. And then, you know what I mean? Like this Solon guy, we're taking his word for it if we believe this theory, obviously. But like for him to describe perfectly where this fucking, you know what I mean, this eye of the Sahara is, you know what I mean? It's pretty crazy. Like he could have described it anywhere else in the, you know what I mean, in Africa or anywhere else in the, you know, his general vicinity, and there not been any remains, and it's still, you know what I mean, could have been somewhat believable. But just the fact that this structure or whatever is there, fucking pretty, it's pretty nuts.
It's quite the coincidence that the thing they describe, say this thing is a natural feature and it's the only one on the whole planet. Like they describe it like very, very similar.
And it's almost, the size is almost exactly the same as they describe it. The look of it's almost the same with all the circles, you know, it's pretty fucking nuts.
So how about this? Okay, now the story of Atlantis is that they were swallowed up by the sea with a massive earthquake.
Earthquakes. He specifically says earthquakes.
He does say it.
Real. Yeah.
Now, geologically, they try and they say that the structure is like some type of like molten dome that collapsed and then eroded, something like that. Dan, do you know how that works? I kind of read it. I was like, I didn't really know how that worked, but
I didn't even hear that.
It would kind of have to be like under. Well, the way that they describe it in some of the videos is that the area sat on kind of like a lava dome. And you'd kind of have the lava kind of pushing up if you've had the magma. It's kind of like a sinkhole,
yeah,
you know, but instead of water, it's lava. And
That's
so
a fucking huge sinkhole.
right?
massive.
So the lava would be pushing up, and then at some point the magma moved, or, you know, a plate shifted or something like that. It would just sink down into the ground. But again, this place is 1,500 feet above sea level, and so yeah, if it went anywhere, that was kind of, if that lava went somewhere, it sank down, but it's not like it's an earthquake. Like Plato specifically says earthquakes, and this place is nowhere near a fault line. If you look at a map of like the major fault lines, this place is nowhere near a fault line.
Okay, here theory. I'm going on theory tangent. So say asteroid does strike near this place and does cause a massive tsunami. What about the impact of the asteroid or comet setting off like
on that sweet spot,
like surface tremors enough to like collapse this dome?
Oh,
that's the only thing I can think of. So say, let's take it a little farther. Say there was a civilization living on this structure, and say this area, it was really wet and had a lot of rainfall and rivers. Maybe it was more freshwater. Maybe it wasn't a ocean per se. Maybe it was just like a giant lake.
There's that one thing I was reading, and it read like there was hot springs, like tons of hot springs. In one of the things I was reading, it kept talking about hot water.
Well, yeah, it does say that they had one cold spring and one hot spring on the center islands. And hot springs only happen around like geothermal activity, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because just geothermal activity doesn't necessarily mean earthquake, so it just means heat escaping from the earth. in some fashion.
Yeah.
Right. So it does. I mean, that does line up. If it were some sort of lava dome and they had, if they had fresh water, then if they did have hot springs, I mean, it lines up.
I'm stretching my theorizing to the max on that one, but
I think that's because that you're telling me that's the only one in the world that happened like that big. Like, you think we'd have smaller ones where you could be like, oh, that looks similar but smaller.
well, there's different types of like these domes. There's like impact structures, refolded structures, the domes, which is like this one is. They call them like diaphoric domes, disputed origin domes. Oh no, sorry, that's funny. That's on Wikipedia. Disputed origin is the Rickott structure.
Oh,
So there's 3 types of known domes, and they geologically know how they happen, and they're kind of similar, but they're not so uniform, like circular. They'll kind of be circular, but you can obviously tell like it's some type of geological lava, like lava came out of the ground and didn't flow perfect in a circle. But when you get to the Rickott structure, which they say is the same as the other domes, it's the only one like that where it formed. It's like symmetrical. So it is super weird, and the only one on Earth that they found like that.
I mean, the place does line up really nicely with a lot of the points that Plato makes in his history. No doubt. Like, it just lines up really nicely. All the points about the especially the concentric circles, you don't find that anywhere else. And it does have mountains. I mean, he says the place was surrounded by mountains when he talks about it in his history. So the place was actually surrounded by mountains.
I thought it said only on the north, but
yeah, I'm only seeing mountains on the north side. But so that's kind of but it's then again, the kind of weird thing is that if you do raise the sea levels, right, and you put this thing on an island where the canal that reaches into the center is supposed to reach the ocean in about 5 miles, it's way farther than 5 miles from the ocean. And if you do raise the sea level, then the land around it also decreases. And in Plato's histories, if you take that, then he said that Atlantis was the size of Libya and Asia, like together. And Asia at the time, he meant Turkey. So putting those two countries together, even if you raise the sea level, you lose the landmass. So,
well, so okay, say you do raise the sea levels to maximum that could ever be with the amount of water on Earth, you would still have a huge region. Not that much of Africa would go under. There'd be chunks of it, but still a huge central region would be above. But it wouldn't be in I don't think it'd be an island really. I'm looking at the elevation chart right now.
It doesn't make sense for it to be an island because it's described with all the flowing rivers, and if it's an island, the mountains wouldn't hold enough.
Well, if it's the size of Libya and Turkey, it's a pretty big island. If so, it would be like a small continent, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have I'm pretty sure those mountains wouldn't be there as well.
Yeah. Okay. How about this?
Those mountains wouldn't.
Let's stretch it out. Stretch it farther. So it is documented that like continents can lift. Like if you were to rapidly take all the ice out of the North Pole, out of Greenland, they would spring up. Yeah. I'm not sure how many feet, but quite a substantial amount.
Atlas shrugs.
Yeah. When Atlas shrugs. So is there any way when Atlas shrugs?
When the weight of capitalism is right, it's lifted from your country, it will rise.
Okay, where was I going with that? Is there any way?
Sorry.
Is there any way besides Atlas shrugging that this area, say of Africa, where the Rickott structure is, could have been lifted? So that now that's why it's so high above the sea level. Because you do find whale bones up there. How would they get there? Something happened to that unless that was someone placed that as a joke or something. I have no idea, but
I would think that those things would die there because it's a desert. It is a desert. I mean, the point that the one guy makes in the Bright Insight video was, I think he cited some other archaeologists who have found evidence of whale bones there that are non-fossilized, which is the big deal. Like if they're fossilized, then it's been like they've been there for millions of years. But if they're not fossilized, then they've only been there, recently. But it's also a desert. A desert is a great way to preserve bones. It's dry, it's hot, you won't get a lot of decomposition. So I think some of those bones could have been a couple, tens of thousands of years old.
Let's go with that. Sure.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. It's pretty fucking crazy. And then like the elevation, there's like the elevation right now it's at 1,500 feet.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So high.
So it's still habitable though. Like it's still.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like yeah, like Denver itself is like 5,000 or something like that. So I don't know. This fucking I'm still that guy fucking sold me hard, man. I just
Okay, we just have to.
I'm ready
the
to
one
drink
thing-
the fucking Kool-Aid.
The one thing I wanted to talk about that they talked about that on the Bright Inside YouTube videos is those like perfect like spheres they find. They're like cut spheres, perfect circles, and then he just like makes an offhand comment. He's like, "Oh, maybe they're cannonballs," and I was like, "Fuck, maybe they are cannonballs." I was like, "That's a fucking reasonable explanation to me," rather than you had these ancient civilization who was cutting these perfect spheres.
Well, it totally fits with the whole theory that these Atlanteans, or like I guess the survivors of this catastrophe, you know what I mean, would spread out to these other civilizations to rebuild and become like gods to like the Egyptians, and you know what I mean. Like it's an attempt to reboot their civilization. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Like to me, the fact that these surviving, the few survivors, whatever, that go out and spread out and try to reboot civilization and spread their knowledge, to me, that's way more fucking believable than alien. You know what I mean?
but
Like I
it's
can buy
aliens,
into
though.
this fucking theory.
aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Anunnaki, dude.
Well, what about how else can we? What about on that same video? They show there's Google anomalies that look like man-made, almost foundations or some type of like Nazca lines, similar stuff around the area.
Oh, I didn't see that in the video.
Yeah,
that's
they're
pretty fucking cool.
So if you search Rickott structure like buildings, you can find some of them. They're like they look like from above. They look like rectangular buildings with maybe like almost like a tower foundation, like a circular tower on the corners, kind of like as you would look as like a castle, like floor plan. If you look from above, kind of look like that. And other just weird structures that are not explained yet. Mainly because it's such a remote area. No one really goes there at all.
Well, that's my thoughts. Like how much excavating and whatnot has been done there? Because personally,
Almost none.
well, exactly. Like for me to believe this, I would have to see a lot more evidence of civilization. You know what I mean? Like they'd actually like have to make an attempt at some type of big expedition where they're actually pulling, you know what I mean, more than just a few fucking elephant bones and the odd copper and gold. You know what I mean? Tools that they found. Like even with a giant flood, I would assume we'd find more shit than that, right?
I'd say the Bright Insight video, a lot of people linked us that when we said we were going to talk about Atlantis, and that's the kind of I know it popped up just a few. It came out. It dropped only a few months ago, like 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
Yeah.
It's not that old.
And since then, the guy's made 2 other videos, and I'll say this: the guy makes a good argument. Like he supports his point really well. And I think the guy did a really good job with the video and lining up a lot of facts that all kind of go together and seem to have a lot of coincidences that seem to, to support that, Atlantis was here. The only thing that I think that it really lacks is, like Andrew said, there's no real hard evidence. I can't get behind the idea. I believe Atlantis existed. Or there was a city that was Atlantis that Plato pulled on to make up his, what some people say is an allegory, but maybe it was an actual advanced civilization. I don't believe that the Rickott structure is where it was. His point in the YouTube videos really only relies on, he cites like geophysical evidence, like this looks like this, so this has got to be it, and also relies on the lack of information that we have about it. Like nobody's been here, but people have been there. Like humans have migrated through that area for thousands of years, and we've never heard anything of a city in the desert or the leftover remains of something. And if you had that recon structure, if there was evidence of a pyramid building structure or a pyramid building civilization that, according to the Cretaeus and Timaeus, Plato's histories, this city had walls that were covered in brass and gold and an unknown metal, also called orichalcum. Entire walls covered with this stuff. You'd find something. You'd see something there. You'd find some sort of evidence of a seafaring race. You could find anchors. The boats might not survive because they were made of wood, but you'd find stone anchors. You'd find any kinds of stuff from there. And all that they have pulled up in the terms of like human habitation of that area is basically Stone Age, or Neolithic tools.
So far.
Yeah.
Because what if those structures? What if someone really starts excavating these structures and they turn out to be something? Then you got to come back and take a second look for sure.
Yeah, it's a really cool place and it deserves a lot more study. But I put a lot more stock in the idea that the Atlantis city that Plato describes is somewhere on the south side of this. Well, they've made a lot more discoveries now, but they're still investigating. But I think it's on the southeastern side of Spain, where they put it at Cadiz and Doña National Park.
Is it
that place is
underwater?
I think that's a way more believable place.
Yeah, because if you go through the accounts, he calls it just outside the Pillars of Hercules. So that's straight there between Africa and Spain.
Right. And it's on the southeast side. And if he said it was destroyed in a series of earthquakes, if you look at the fault lines, there's a fault line that runs right under the south because where the African plate meets like the Indo-European plate, it's right there.
Right.
So if there was a Dryas impact, like it would set that thing off. You better believe it.
So do you believe that? So I know you don't believe that the Eye of the Sahara, or you think, you know what I mean? You don't have enough evidence to think that the Eye of the Sahara was Atlantis. Do you believe that there was a place called Atlantis? Like, do any of you guys?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Because like even today, it's still considered like a fucking
Myth.
Pseudo history, right? Like you look it up in Wikipedia and it's they still somewhat mock it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go hard and say it's like Aquaman Atlantis, but that there was perhaps an ancient seafaring race. It's not beyond believable. The weird thing is that you have structures in. Why I argue for Spain is that archaeologists have found these structures in Spain. These kind of they're archaeologists who support the theory of Atlantis. They say that these structures that the people built were like temples, and they were built in the same similar structure as what Atlantis was described as. You have like these towers that were set inside like 2 or 3 circles of stone, and that these were supposedly the kind of colonies or even refuge cities after Atlantis had been destroyed, and they moved east. Some moved east towards like Europe and even Egypt, and as far as Egypt and these places. And some scientists even argue that like the Jewish religion is like the remnants of Atlantean religion, and that's a whole nother thing. But there's also evidence that this civilization, these similar pyramid structures and these towers that they built, there seems to be remnants of that on islands in the Azores. And there are pyramid structures and tunnel structures in the Azores, which no archaeologists have seemed to study. I try to find any type of really in-depth study or academic papers of like archaeological finds. People know that they're there and they've been there for thousands of years, but nobody has looked at them.
Well, you know what? You want to prove it to me, you just got to find somebody that can talk to fish, and then I'll believe them. All right?
Yeah, no problem.
Show me a present day Arthur Curry to talk to fish and
you can breathe underwater,
living underwater.
So now, no, I just want to quickly go back to that. So what do you call them? Azores? That's like a part of
Azores.
It's like part of Portugal, right? But it's way out to sea.
Yes. It's like halfway. It's halfway across the Atlantic, almost exactly.
So, I wonder what the depth around that place is. Something to look into. I wonder, like, if there's
Right.
weird.
If you want to look up something weird, look up like pyramids on the Azores. It's kind of difficult, a little bit hard to find, but you look in those. There are pyramid structures on there and strange tunnel formations that somebody built at some time with architectural know-how to build those. And then those pyramids, which are step pyramids, look oddly similar to Aztec and Mayan architecture. So,
and that's right in the middle, and they do find all the similarities between Aztec, the Incas, Egyptian, all those similar building styles. So you find the same stuff right in the middle of the Atlantic. An ancient, super advanced seafaring race with maybe 10 kingdoms over the world.
Could there have been more than one kingdom, though, of these advanced seafaring people, right? They could have spread, divide, and conquer.
Well, they said in the thing is that they had, was it five? Well, the myth is he had 5 twins and they took over and had 5 sets of male twins and they took over 10 different kingdoms of Atlantis.
5 sets of twins. That's fucking nuts. Apparently, this area is the most common area for twins. That guy was. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard him say that too.
I think that's a little ridiculous, but
How do you find that fact?
I don't know. You know what?
Birth records?
I don't know. You just look up for a country with highest rates of twin births. Like, it's recorded somewhere, and they recorded in hospitals and things like that. And I think he said Nigeria was which is that's pretty far from there.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's not right next door.
It's a weird little fact, but it's a weird correlation. But I don't think it's a real connection.
I personally think that this, like, so all these facts that this guy's brought up in that video, and even just a little digging I've done, you would think that would elicit some type of investigation, or like more people to have already been kind of on this trail. Like, why is there this big push to bury, Atlantis and kind of poo-poo it and make it fucking,
It goes against all modern teachings.
Like, is it, so it's, like the fucking Orwell quote, like, who controls the past controls the future type thing? Or do you just think people don't want to admit that they could have been wrong?
I think it's probably a bit of both.
It's a lot of resistance from the scientific community to really investigate those things. Plus, it's also a money thing. I really think it's really expensive to fund a dig, and it's like, if you don't find, it's a big gamble to go find something like that. It's like, I need this much money. What do I need? I don't know how to grant. How much would be like $100,000 to go dig in the middle of the desert,
and we might not find anything.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that we won't find anything.
Well, we got to fund things like fucking Space Force. That's way more important.
Yes. We have way more important things to spend our money on, like, boner drugs, keeping our hair.
You'd think they'd be fucking putting more, like studying more in with the younger Dryas and shit like that. Because if that shit's true, man, that's terrifying. That could happen again. And with our type of technology nowadays, you'd think that, I'm not saying it could be preventable, but I'm sure we could work towards.
Here's the thing. Would you want to know, Andrew?
Fucking rights, I'd want to know, because I'd want to work towards potentially.
Dude, it would be chaos if everyone knew. If everyone knew something like this was going to happen.
Talk about like an impact?
Yeah, or like a fucking.
I think NASA's actually planning a launch of one of their asteroid redirection kind of experiments. They're going to kind of do that. I think they found one that's an asteroid or like a celestial object that's like, it's not coming near us. We're not in danger of hitting us, but they're going to try and see if they could actually change its path enough. So, I mean, they're doing that. We're working on that. And I think with the, I've read somewhere that with the current early warning system, if there was going to be an object that was going to impact Earth, I think they said they would probably, I think it's either 3 months. I think we'd have like a 3 months warning.
Dude, I don't think they tell us.
Well, but like you asked me if I want to know, I do. I would want to know.
Well, I think you would kind of know most of the thing because I don't know.
You know what? Know how I
Because
think
most
we
of the
would
stuff,
know?
But like, and a lot of people would be freaking out, obviously. But I think,
oh yeah,
I think the majority of people would want to know and want to work towards a goal, right? Like, obviously, it's better than just being like, oh, we're fucked anyway, so just let it happen. You know what I mean? And start investing the money.
No, this is how I think we would know. Because now with all this modern technology, really good telescopes are not that expensive anymore. And a lot of amateur astronomers and like astronomy groups have pretty powerful telescopes.
It's a big sky, man.
So I know, but eventually you would see it coming. NASA might be able to hide it from the public because they have more advanced satellites for a bit, but eventually amateurs would find it. They're always searching.
You know what I think we'd know. The reason I think we'd know is because like I think all the rich billionaires would start making like companies that are trying to like inhabit Mars and the moon and like launch people into space and get us off the fucking planet.
You mean like right now?
What?
Building underground
mean?
bases and bunkers.
That's how I think we'd know. And you'd have to put the pieces together. Huh? Why you gotta buy a ticket? You gotta buy a ticket, go to space. It's gonna cost you $500,000 or whatever.
I'm fine with a close running meteor because it's going to split the moon in two, and then it's going to birth a new age of super science and sorcery on our planet, just like Thundar the Barbarian and his fabulous sun sword with his friend Ukla the Mock and the Sorceress Ariel.
I can't
Got
believe
something to
that
look forward to.
how did I never hear about that TV show?
That show is great.
Yeah, I'm so bummed out about not knowing what.
And
We're deprived, man.
Oh my god.
Canadian cartoons weren't half as good. We got like Rocky and Bullwinkle.
That's a fucking weak.
Fucking weak ass shit.
But yeah, going back to the Rakat, I'm not sold that this is Atlantis, but I definitely think that we need to like do some digging and explore that area a lot more than we are, because I bet there's some crazy shit we're gonna find under that sand. But I think if it was Atlantis and all the shit you hear about it, we would see remnants like similar to the pyramids and that kind of stuff. You'd see better structures.
Maybe they're buried.
They might be.
Have they not even tried that, like the X-ray shit that they've been doing?
I don't think they've tried anything
LiDAR.
there.
Yeah.
That stuff's so expensive. It's really hard to get they really do it.
I still think it's the fact that Plato says that Atlantis sunk into the ocean, and then now this place is 1,500 feet above sea level. So what did it sink below sea level and then
Maybe
come back up 1,500 feet, and then you don't see anything after it comes out of 1,500 feet?
Ocean of sand.
There you go. Yeah, never thought of that.
Maybe there's a mistranslated something, and it wasn't into the ocean. It was into a sea, and then the sea dried up, and you got this.
And this was all pulled from hieroglyphics, right? Like,
yeah.
I'd still think you'd see people.
Mm-hmm.
I think people would have saw something in that desert. Like people have been migrating through that region, whether it's the type of like Bedouin tribes or things like that. People have been trekking through that desert. Somebody would have seen something.
Yeah, but how many people are pulling shit out of there?
Yeah, but look at the shit that they're finding now in Egypt with the X-ray, right? That there was no record of.
Yeah, but that's all buried beneath other cities. Like it's always been there. Like we know that it's like when they found Troy. They knew about Troy. They knew kind of where it was, and there was evidence of something being there. It just was never as big as they thought it was, and not exactly in the same. There was some evidence of something that was there. So I would just think that you would see something if you had a 5-mile long canal,
like a bunch of fucking concentric circles that was described by fucking ancient.
It's true, man. It's like I said, they need to dig it up.
I'm a fucking dummy. I'll admit it. I'm a big old fucking dummy. But this YouTube video's got me going. I'm fired up.
Well, I'm not fired up on Atlantis. I'm fired up that why aren't we digging this shit up? Like There's something there.
Totally. Fucking cool, man.
I'm pretty. People have gone in there. I think there was a group that went in like 2016 or 2013. They went there and tried to dig stuff up, but they didn't find anything.
Yeah, but how much? Was it a big scale project, or they just pick one tiny piece of the desert and go for a pick around?
But I'm pretty sure they would have, even if they could cover one piece of desert, they would have covered like one of the places around that area. They would have probably picked the best place to get the best bang for their buck. And if they didn't find anything there,
Or were these the guys that found the fucking whale bones and the elephant manes? Fucking.
I think that was a different group. Those were actual.
Well,
Dude,
I think this
you,
was a group.
you sell me.
Those
You
are
have
the
me
Finding
sold on
Atlantis people, I think.
those perfect rock spheres. Sold. Like, let's get in there.
well, man.
Oh, you know what? I bet you can buy one of those online because it's a third world country. I bet someone's selling them.
Okay, I would say, if the Atlanteans helped build if their knowledge helped build either the Sphinx or the pyramids, which have been around for, some people say, like 11,000 years, and those have been built to last, didn't you think like their capitals, the Atlanteans' capital city, would have been built to last as well? That there'd be something left?
Okay.
More than just nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know, man, that's hard to argue.
it's hard to argue, but okay, check. I'm gonna post this in the Discord here. This is a structure that's on the Rickard structure. It looks like a foundation of something. Just have a peek at this. See what you think. Because when you look at it, it's something. It's not natural. It's straight lines with on the corners
yeah.
or circles
Where's
and stuff.
that?
Zoom out.
That's fucking
Zoom out.
crazy.
It's right in the structure, man. Zoom out.
Oh, weird. I never saw that.
And there's a few of those.
Shit.
There's a few of those in there. So there is some weird.
Oh, that's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, I'll
Good
show you.
eye. Where did
Yeah.
you find that yourself?
No, I read it, man.
Oh,
So here's another one. Have a little peek at that one. So if you have time and you're looking right now, just search for Rickott structure buildings or foundations, and it'll take you to the Reddit page, and you can find all these links.
weird.
So this is on the structure. On like some of them are closer to the center than others. There is something's there from the side, unless it's some type of somehow perfectly rectangular.
There's got to be some type of like leftover shit from the Mauritanian civilizations that lived in that area too, though, right?
That's what I mean, but there's no explanation of what these are. No one really knows.
Yeah.
Have a look at one more. Just take a look at that one.
Zell, you don't got to sell me, buddy. I'm fucking bought.
I want to see all three.
I'm just saying, like, if someone's going to investigate, I want to see someone digging around where like these are.
Totally.
And I don't know. I can't find if anyone's done it. It's not a well documented place, really.
Which fucking blows my mind. Like there's only one of these in the entire fucking world. There's only one of them. You know what I mean? And there's been little to no fucking investigating. You know, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It is frustrating to see that most of the people just write it off as like a natural formation, or even when they do write it off as a natural formation, there's been like formal study. It's just it's all kind of theories, and it's all theoretical. People are like, oh, it probably formed by this way, and they just kind of write it off, and nobody's done like any hardcore, no. Even if I were like not even an archaeologist, if I were a geologist, I'd be on this and be like, yo, this stuff is really fucking weird. Let's go take a look,
Totally.
Mhm.
And then with you know what I mean, all the backup that we have from the Critus and the Timaeus or whatever the fuck they're called.
Well, I wouldn't tell people I was going to look for Atlantis. I'd definitely be I would lie and just say, yeah, I'm going to go look at rocks.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I hope that's new video and all this other shit's gonna fucking, I hope some fucking rich ass guys going down the rabbit hole sitting at home on YouTube finds us and's like, I'm going to fund my own fucking expedition here.
Robert Bigelow.
Well, James Cameron funded his. So, James Cameron put his out, and they put it in Spain, which I thought was good. They found actual, in that area, they found actual stone anchors. So, I mean, that's actual evidence of a like proto-Greek. They found structures. And the weird thing is that in that Doña Ana Park, which is now swamp, a lot of it's just wetlands. It's a lot of swampland and mud, which was in the Cretaceous and Timaeus. He said that was part of like what covered Atlantis, was just a lot of mud from the tsunamis and the earthquakes, and underneath the Doña Ana wetlands, they've found like a uniform layer of methane, and that uniform layer of methane indicates that there was a large amount of organic matter which died and was covered over with mud, and it was trapped there. So the decomposition has produced that methane gas, and when they've tested the organic matter from that, they've carbon dated that layer of methane to around when Plato would have described Atlantis existing, or the cataclysm.
That's cool.
That's pretty fucking cool. That's really cool.
So that one sells me more than this one, because the guy really just says a lot of geographical stuff. There's no hard evidence. There's no structures. There's no nothing from a civilization that was even not even like the tiniest little blip of something.
But
those little Neolithic like hand axes and stuff like that. Like that's something, but it's not enough to be like there's.
Give it a look. Those look like modern buildings to me.
Yeah. Probably for tourists.
Yeah, I don't know. Those don't look anything like a stone foundation like the other ones.
You can get there. Like you can take a tour.
If you look closer, to there, that looks like tire tracks, like a small road.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure those are just for tourists or something.
You just found the fucking souvenir hut here, buddy.
Yeah,
because
that's where you can buy your official Atlantis tchotchkes and keychains.
Fucking right.
Yeah, because that one's right in the center.
Like if there's any rich fucking Patreon donors here that are listening to this and want to fund an expedition, I got a fucking shovel, man.
We can dig.
Got a shovel in my garage until we find it.
We can run the experiment if 3 guys can dig a hole 30 feet or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my final thought in the eye, it's super cool. It has a lot of good connections, but I just feel it's way too high above sea level, and it's not sunk. So I think
it's way too far.
If you're gonna go by the accounts of Plato and others of that era,
Solon and Herodotus,
then this thing should be under the water unless they just made a grave mistake. And so I don't know. It's just way too high above sea level. Unless there's some type of phenomenon we don't know which can lift a continent 1,000 feet rapidly.
Boys,
which I know Antarctica and stuff it's raising. It's climbing 5 inches a year or something.
Zoom in on that.
It just seems it's very small, but after a long period of time, it keeps going. But
yeah, what buildings are there?
Yeah, it's super cool though. # look it up.
Yeah, this has been awesome. This has been a lot of fun to look into.
This one's cool.
Let's get into some new 5-star reviews.
Woo! People being nice.
I got one that I'm going to have to read as a wrestler.
All right.
Yes.
This review is 5-star review from The Right Hook from Canada. 5-star out of nowhere. Do you smell what the ATT boys are cooking? It doesn't matter what you're smelling, because this podcast is classic. Imagine cracking a few beers with your friends and getting super kicked in the face with a big old conspiracy theory. This podcast is so good, I'm seriously considering becoming a Patreon member. And I'm a cheap bastard, so that's saying something. Seriously, though, give this podcast a listen and support it because these guys deserve it. And that's the bottom line, because Reggie Right Hook says so. They're certified G's, and you can't teach that. Keep it up, boys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was great.
You're certified G's, certified Godzillas, everything on us.
Best podcast, 5-star from Noah Toa 07. Nothing to complain about with this podcast. And the ones that do are just douchebags. A few guys sitting around bullshitting and feel like I can relate, so it keeps my attention. As these guys are theorizing, I'll be looking stuff up as they're talking, and in most cases, I'm mind blown. Keep up the good work and keep blazing, except for the dudes that don't smoke weed. weird.
Well, that's not Braden anymore. He's
Oh.
back on the dope.
Canada legalized marijuana?
The legal dope. I got one from Facebook. I got to read it because it's kind of funny. Mark Craddock, 5 stars. Love this podcast. Defo in my top 11 right now.
Number 11 for sure.
I don't miss the heavy breathing. Is that just me? They got a couple of culprits on the show.
Couple of mouth breathers.
That's the only new one from Facebook.
What else did I have? Sal, you got a prolapse of the week? Yeah, you did.
Oh shit! I got a prolapse of the week. It doesn't have anything to do with the podcast, really.
Did this achieve a childhood dream for you a little bit?
In a way, this achieved a childhood dream. So one of our awesome Patreon supporters, Turd Ferguson, he legit put my song "Go" by Lucky Monkey as a Guitar Hero track. You can play the song, I guess.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Pretty neat.
that's fucking.
He
cool.
says, "I don't know
saw
how
that
many."
and I was like, shit.
I don't know how
You
many
gonna
of you
dust
still
off the
play.
PS2 and fucking give her a rip or what?
Yeah, he completed charting "Go."
Fuck,
So
that's cool.
I don't know.
You got to figure out how to play through it once.
I don't have Guitar Hero anymore, but I really want to play this. I watched it.
Oh, buddy,
I watched him play it.
Get
Looks
on the
good.
classifieds. I'm sure you could get a PS2 and a fucking guitar in the game for fucking $5
No, I'm sure I could.
for sure.
I want someone else. I just want to play someone else's stuff. So
Oh yeah.
you got Guitar
just gotta
Hero-
play it once.
yeah, I just want to play the song once. I could still shred on Expert. I guarantee.
Wow,
Guarantee.
I never made it past medium.
I used to go to the bar and win bar tabs playing Guitar Hero
That's fucking nuts.
back in
Zelda
its
was
prime.
his like life in high school, man. Fucking.
Oh yeah,
love
high
Guitar
school,
Hero.
first year of college, I could played so much Guitar Hero.
Then he became a Guitar Hero.
Working on it.
What else we got? Anything else?
New Patreons.
Oh,
Well,
I have
let's
that up here.
let's do a quick announcement about Patreon. So now we have our own Discord going, and if you're a Patreon member, we are going to be doing live Q&As and a whole bunch of stuff on our Discord channel. So if you're a Patreon member and you don't have a Discord, make one, and you can link them together, and you'll automatically be given your role in Discord. And we'll be posting when we're going to do some live stuff. And for all you non-Patreon supporters, maybe we'll send some invites
Get
out
on
for sometimes. But yeah, get on the Patreon.
We have tons of additional content. If you like our stuff, you hit the last case file and you wish for more. We have guaranteed over 30 hours of additional content for Patreon.
Yeah, it's building up.
ATT confidentials. We've got after hours. Lots of fun stuff to listen to. I think that's a lot of our funnier stuff.
Our first podcast that we ever did is on there.
Yeah.
You will not find it anywhere else, and you'll never hear it except on
Hot
Patreon.
fucking garbage.
Yeah, hot garbage.
Hot
Got
garbage.
it. And
for
you-
sure.
Some might say species garbage.
Oh fuck.
I'm bringing back
That's
that.
only-
I'm bringing back that voice for Dungeons and Dragons.
Good. You know, you'd understand that joke if you listen to our podcast.
I don't even know if that's if that made the first podcast.
That might.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and listen. It's been a long time, but
Oh, that was fucking hilarious.
Anyways, okay. Yeah, so get on Patreon. It helps us out. You go to TeePublic, buy our t-shirts. We got tons of cool shirts on there. Anything else?
let's just read the new Patreons here.
Oh, that's right.
Now, is it Jesus or Jesus Gonzalez? I'm going with Jesus. Sarah Sawyer, Matthew Androlowicz. I think that's
Oh,
all the new
good.
ones.
That was no. As soon as you read it, I think that's spot on.
Androlowicz. That's all I got, I think. If I missed you, let us know. Song of the week, don't have it. If you want your song featured on Alien Theorist at the end of the episode, just email me some stuff at alientheorist@gmail.com. And yeah, we'll put it on. I'm trying to do music all the time on here now. What else? Anything else?
I don't got
Vegas.
anything.
Vegas. It's not. We're not doing any live shows or anything. We're just hanging out. So if you want to take a vacation, January 31st to February 3rd, we're staying off strip, probably at an Airbnb, and then we're just gonna, I don't know, probably rent a car or scooters, whatever we decide.
Ride our scooters off into the desert.
Yeah.
Ride to Area 51 and.
All right,
shit.
let's.
Bugs in our teeth and wind in our hair.
All right, let's wrap her up.
You know what I'm gonna say in the middle of the desert? I'm gonna pull us all over, and I'm gonna go, "Huh? I thought the Rocky Mountains would look a little rockier than this." And then that's it. Anyways, let's wrap this up. Let's keep those eyes on the skies.
Peace.
Let's do it. After hours.
Woo!
I got a Dan scooter story.
Okay.
We rented scooters in Hua Hin in Thailand one time, and we were like, just get on them or whatever and fucking peel them out. They're nice ones. We're driving down the highway. We're going to like about 60, and this guy kind of cuts me off, so I kind of have to give the brakes a little bit and kind of merge to the right lane. And in the corner of my eye, I saw what I thought was a shoe or like an object, like just kind of flutter as I was driving. So I was like, "Hey, Katrina, look!"